Hey folks, so here we are, we're at lesson 12 with Ms. Cruz on our informational writing unit, and we are going to be hearing about a checklist today. It's really important when we're writing to check in and see if we're hitting the things we should be hitting when we're working on informational writing. Third graders have a certain things that they need to learn to do in their writing during third grade, and Miss Cruz is going to talk about this checklist. You will find this in your blue folder. It is stapled and it has 3 pages. So go ahead and grab that so that you can look at it while Miss Cruz is talking. You can pause the video if you need to while you grab it. And let's get started.
Hi, writers. So I was thinking about you because yesterday I wanted to put sort of like a little celebration together for my first grade son. He had done a little something fancy and I wanted to celebrate it. And so I decided to decorate the space over the table where we eat our meals. And as I was in the middle of decorating that space, I sort of stopped and I said, is this too much or is this too little? And I stopped and kind of looked at it. I took stock of what was already there and thought about, should I add more? Should I take down anything? And as I was doing that, I thought of you. I thought of where you are in your informational books. Today, what I want to teach you is that informational writers stop before they are completely done and they take stock of what they've already done. They reread what they have already written and they think, what guidelines, charts, checklists, or mentor text can help me think about what I have already done and what's strong and that I can leave, and what work could still be done to make it even stronger. Now, your teacher might have already given you some charts. Maybe you're thinking about the mentor text that you've been using. Maybe there's some other guidelines you're thinking of. I thought it might be interesting to use checklists, and there are checklists that your teacher might want to share with you. I'm going to show you a few that I have handy, and then we can think about how we could use them to make our writing better. So here is a third grade information writing checklist, starting with things that we've already talked about, like leads and organization. And then it goes on to talk about things like elaboration and craft. Now, we're going to talk about the third grade checklist, but just so you know, there are other checklists available that you might consider, like a second and third grade checklist. So if you feel a little bit rusty, like maybe some of the stuff that happened last year made you feel like you need to go back a little bit, you might want to start with the second grade checklist and then move on to the third grade checklist. Or if you feel like you want a little bit more of a challenge, you might want to start with the third grade checklist and then move on to the fourth grade checklist. Today, what we're going to start off with is thinking about the third grade checklist. And in particular, I want to think about what writers can do to elaborate as a third grade writer of informational text. And so I can look at this description. I wrote facts, definitions, details, and observations about my topic and explain some of them. And then as I'm looking at places where I'm elaborating, I can ask myself, is this something I'm not yet doing? Is this something I'm starting to do? And is this something, yes, I'm absolutely doing? And if it's, yes, I'm absolutely doing it, then I can move on to another part of my piece or another category in my checklist and make some work for myself, other work. But if I'm writing not yet or starting to, that's a signal as a writer that I have some work to do. So let's take a look at Kayla and let's use that checklist to think about what is Kayla doing as a writer that she's already doing well, and is there anything that she could do more of when it comes to elaboration? Now, just as a reminder, facts, definitions, details, and observation, and explained some of them. So we're going to look at Kayla's piece and think to ourselves, did she do those facts, definitions, observations, and explain some of them? Or are there some places where she could do more? Making a bottle. She is writing a book all about babysitting, and this is her chapter on making a bottle. So take a clean bottle, then take out whole milk. You know it's whole milk because it has a red cap. Then pour it into the bottle and make sure it doesn't overfill. Then put the bottle into the microwave for 30 seconds, but make sure it has no top parts when you put it in the microwave. When the bottle comes out of the microwave, hold it upside down for less than a second to make sure you hold it over your hand. If the milk is too hot, do not give it to the baby. If the milk is just right, you could give it to the baby. Once you gave it to the baby, watch the baby to make sure the baby does not choke. So do we think that, yes, Kayla is adding facts, she's adding observations, she's adding details, and she's explaining a little bit about it? I'm definitely seeing some facts, right? Like the 30 seconds and the kind of milk. And I'm definitely seeing some observations, like the things about the microwave and the red cap. And I think that she is saying a little bit more, but maybe she wants to say a little bit more. So she could mark yes, but she might want to challenge herself to say a little bit more. Let's see what Kayla thought. So Kayla made some notes to herself after she she used a checklist, and she added some notes to herself on her draft so that she could make her piece even stronger. And so she decided that she wanted to add, to see how hot it is, like how can you tell how hot it is, to add an inside story, so an example of a time where she did this. She feels like she needs to add something more, like the first time that she made a bottle and didn't do it right. And she feels like she needed to add something. She felt like she missed a step, that you need to hold it up to the sink to make sure that the water doesn't spill out or the milk doesn't spill out everywhere. And then she also wants to add something about highlighting. So she has some notes to herself. She used a checklist. The way we were pretending this piece was ours for a little bit to use the checklist, Kayla actually used the checklist, and then she made some notes, and now she can go back and make her own changes, her own revisions to make her piece as strong as it can possibly be. So, information book writers, there are so many decisions for you to make as you get close to the end of writing your piece. You can go back and look at charts that your teacher has shared with you, things that information writers do, and you can read your piece and think, what are some things I can try to make my piece stronger? What are things I'm doing well that I want to leave alone? You could go back and read mentor texts and see if there's things that they're doing that you did, and if there are things they're doing that you'd like to try. You can also look at checklists, and you can think about what are some moves I am already doing as a writer, and what are some moves that I can try. So tons of things for you to try today in your revision work. I don't want to keep you any longer. Off you go.
All right. So Ms. Cruz, as always, gives us some great ideas. And wow, how impressive was that with Kayla, who had some really great notes that she made when she was doing her revisions and looking at where she needed to strengthen her work. So what I want you to do today is to take that checklist out, and I want you to go through the different parts of it, figure out where you're at with it. So I'm trying to figure out why my DocuCam isn't coming up, but that's all right. We'll get it here. I just want to have you look at it really quick. So when you go through your checklist, I want you to focus in on one area where you marked not yet. All right, so here is the checklist, and you're going to look at the lead, the transition, the endings, the organization, and you're going to be clicking not yet, starting to, and yes. All right, now if you have some areas that you are not just starting to look at, those are the areas I want you to really focus in on. I want you to pick one of those areas. So it could be an elaboration like she talked about. I really liked this section. It was great where she talked about elaboration is where you have facts, definitions, details, and observations. Those are some great ideas for how we elaborate in informational writing. So you could look at something in that area, or you could look at language conventions, so spelling and punctuation. Maybe you're not quite doing punctuation yet with dialogue, or maybe you're not using periods, exclamation points, or question marks consistently. So go through and focus on that. So what I want to see is a completed checklist, your name on top, a completed checklist of all of these areas, and then I want you to circle one of the areas that you really want to focus on, and then maybe start that work. of how you're going to improve that area. And if you don't know what to do, that's okay. At least we've got it identified, and then we can work on it together. All right, that's the plan, Stan. And we're going to connect back up soon and continue to see where we're at with their amazing writing. Bye-bye.